Thank you so much. Thank you for that great introduction. I am Dr. Jill Meyer, and thank you all for joining us today. We're very excited to be here. I'm really thrilled to be using AI in rehab counseling and to have that to be part of our vocational evaluation forensic certificate at Auburn University. We have a few goals. Now it doesn't. Hang on. There we go. Today, we're going to go over Auburn's generative AI pilot program that we've been conducting in rehab counseling, talk about some strategies incorporating AI into education and practice, provide the example that we used in Canvas, which is our LMS, and then also a practical example of using generative AI in one of our courses and with the students, and also what we plan to be doing later this summer with another opportunity using AI. So just a little bit about the vocational evaluation forensic certificate. It is a graduate certificate through Auburn University. It lasts a year and there's 6 courses. You're all pretty familiar with the coursework, so I'm not going to go into depth, but do want to recognize that we are supported by RSA. This is part of the Innovative Rehab Training Grant from RSA. And so we've done a lot of work with them, and they've provided quite a bit of funding. And we were able to, in the last year of our grant, create this pilot program through the certificate in our rehab counseling coursework. So a little bit about myself. I'm professor and director at Auburn University. Background, obviously, in rehab counseling, and more recently started doing some work in forensic rehabilitation as a vocational expert witness for Social Security. And I handle all of the RSA grants at Auburn University. Also with us, we have Dr. Jinhee Park, an associate professor and also the program coordinator for the clinical rehab counseling program, and she also assists with the RSA grants. Dr. Matt McClanahan, another member of our team, is with us today. He is the instructor for the vocational evaluation course, and that's where we did some of the AI work. He's also a vocational expert for Social Security and has his own practice in forensic rehab. Another one of our members is Fran Hershey. She works at Alabama Department of Rehab Services, Lake Shore. She is the program coordinator for the vocational evaluation services there. Also working there is Michael Washington. He's the unit supervisor at ADRS Lakeshore, and they partner on the grant with us, providing comprehensive overview of services. Dr. Michael McClanahan is also a member of our team. He teaches our forensic rehab course. And then we have Miss Gwinnett Jackson from our state VR office, and she is the recruitment specialist for Alabama Department of Rehab Services. So we've really brought together a team to make sure that we have the expertise and people currently serving in the field, providing services so that everything we do is relevant and very up to date. With us also, we have one of our doc students, Danny Dore, who is a doc student in counseling psych and helped us put together the project and the PowerPoints for today. We have a wonderful partner at Auburn University that helps with a lot of the technology on our projects, redesigning our coursework, helping us with the platform to deliver our courses. This is the Big EO Center at Auburn University, and we are very fortunate that at Auburn we have Dr. Asim Ali, who is an expert in AI and has been fantastic in partnering with us to create this pilot project. As most of you know, AI is pretty new to our field, pretty new to a lot of people, even though it's been around for a while. We're just finding that out now that although it's been around for quite some time, we're just kind of using it. So we're very grateful to have Dr. Ali join us as an expert in AI and at the Big EO Center. So at this time, I'll turn it over to you.
Hey, good morning, everyone. I think if we go to the next slide, what I'll do is I'll just kind of briefly introduce how we approach our AI work and AI initiative at Auburn and how that contributed to the topic at hand in terms of its implementation in the VEFC program. So I'm going to cover four key areas just in terms of how generative AI is largely being used in terms of chatbots and those kinds of things. Some things that are around the corner in terms of AI agents, and then how we use that to approach faculty readiness as well as just some thoughts around student readiness. If we go to the next slide. So with generative AI, you're familiar with using it. Many of you, I'm sure, you provide a prompt to the system that's basically a black box. We don't really know entirely how it thinks or if it even thinks or if it just uses statistics to respond to us. And what we're able to do essentially is use certain platforms. So at Auburn, we tend to use Microsoft Copilot Studio, or there's a new program we've been experimenting with called Boodlebox. And then we can also write some programs that use custom code that can then be in a custom program that uses OpenAI or other service providers to let us basically access the big known technologies like ChatGPT or Copilot or any of those big systems, essentially to be able to be available to respond to questions or prompts that are more to our desire. So in this scenario, what we've done is developed chatbots that are trained or been essentially designed to answer response to questions from students that would be enrolled in one of the courses that's in the program. The benefits that we see, chatbots, they're available 24/7. The students that we're teaching are used to that. The folks that we're going to be working with are used to more instantaneous responses, just given the customer service expected from businesses and companies around us. And so institutions like Auburn are no different. And so if we provide a less available experience or a less friendly experience than what they're used to getting from, marquee providers in other areas, then that would reflect on, just in terms of the reputation of the program. So we want to be available. We want to be useful. But certainly, anytime you're working with cutting edge technology or leading edge technology comes with caveats. The key ones that we look for are, related to chatbots would be how accurate or reliable it would be. So the chatbot implementations that you'll hear from today with Dr. Matt, those we tuned to not be too creative, if I can say it that way, in terms of what kind of creativity they use in their responses. We wanted to turn that down a lot because we want to make sure that students get a very reliable response. So if we train it on something like what are the assignments, what are the due dates, we want to make sure that the responses that the students are getting are accurate. The other caveat is the human centricity aspect. At Auburn, we have what we call the Auburn Creed. We value what we call the human touch. And so we want to be careful not to design systems that somehow make us more impersonal, which inherently chatbots can be. And so we take great care to see, okay, what are ways that we can implement some of this technology in a way that's better enhancing the experience rather than detracting from that experience. And certainly, there are other considerations in terms of cost. The systems that I mentioned in terms of Microsoft Copilot Studio or Boodlebox tend to have a lower cost than some of the others. But writing our own custom code and using the API tokens, that tends to be a little bit more expensive. If we go to the next slide, where things are headed,
Dr. Ali, I'm so
however,
sorry to interrupt
yes,
you. Are you guys, do you have a PowerPoint that you're using? I've heard reference to slides, and I just want to make sure that I am not seeing it on the screen right now.
I we are
I see
sharing a
slides on the
screen.
screen. Yeah, I see slides.
Okay, great.
Okay, thank you. So where things are headed is really, right now the key thing about generative AI is you have to prompt it, but we're getting to systems that don't need prompting, that they can really be much more autonomous, so to speak. And This can sound a little scary, but if I think about AI agents as digital systems that can observe their environment, then we can train them to make certain types of decisions that helps and augments our work. So, for example, an AI agent could monitor a client's employment progress through data inputs and suggest next steps based on certain rehabilitation goals that a human sets. And agents can use methods that understand language, that understand different kinds of data, and then can personalize those responses based on the information that's being input. And then they help people make better decisions based on the data that's being presented to them. It can also identify other barriers that can sometimes escape our quick observations, or maybe we don't have access to all of the information in front of us, but AI agents that are designed to look for all of that information from multiple sources can sometimes do a better job of helping us have better access to information. So in vocational rehabilitation, education AI agents can support learning and service delivery. It can simulate client scenarios for training. It can provide real-time feedback on different kinds of counseling skills, basically for repetitive kinds of practice opportunities without having to always rely on human labor to do that. We can then have the human expertise be better devoted to other tasks that are much more useful and important as well. And so agents essentially are, you're going to start hearing this phrase if you haven't already, this idea of agentic AI rather than generative AI. And so that's where we'll start seeing how do we augment the work that we're doing as professionals to be able to be more readily available to the clients that we're working with. If we go to the next slide. So in that context, how we think about faculty readiness are in three different key areas. In the Big EO Center, we want to think about AI literacy. This is how do we make sure the faculty understand not only what generative AI is, but what are the tools that are available? What are those capabilities? Do our faculty understand the basics of that AI technology? You may feel like that there's just so much information around this and it's always changing that it's just hard to keep up. And I agree. And I don't advise that. I don't think it's important for you to feel like you have to keep up with all of this information. When you're driving down the road and there's like a used car dealership and there's the little, advertising the thing that's out front that's just wailing in the wind. It can feel like that we're that thing that's just always moving around to all the AI information that's coming at us. But one thing that we'll observe about all of those little gimmicky, tools, I need to look up what they're actually called. They're all grounded. They're not moving from where they are in the ground. And so what we like to think about it is how do we encourage faculty to find that foundational knowledge that even if all of the news makes it feel like we're wailing in the wind, we're still grounded in some sound principles, practices, and knowledge that allow us to adapt to other things that could be happening. So that leads to how do we design our courses? How do we design assessments? I often hear about faculty lamenting that AI can be used to cheat on assignments. And yeah, absolutely, that is a concern. So how do we actually use these tools to design assignments, design coursework that can not only encourage students to become familiar with this emerging technology so they're better prepared for the economy that's coming, but also avoid, those challenges in terms of students possibly using AI to do the assignments. And there, all of the research around academic dishonesty, it really points to, students don't cheat because there's AI. There are known factors that contribute to that. And so certainly that's what we look to is how do we design the assignments and design the courses that support faculty to mitigate any potential risks in that area. But then there's also a responsibility to the students and to society. I think back to when I was in college and social media was just starting up. I didn't have any classes in any of my programs that taught me what social media was or what's the social responsibility and when it comes to using social media, what are the challenges or risks? And I would I, I would hypothesize or suggest that a lot of the challenges that we see in terms of the role social media is playing in our society today is maybe because of that. And so the risk because of AI could be far greater, but the opportunity also because of AI is far greater. And so we want faculty to be the conduit for that information for our students because your expertise is so valuable and your lens in terms of thinking through emerging technology from that expertise is so valuable. We'll go to the next slide. That also brings us to how do we think about, this idea of, are we just going to be replaced by AI? What we like to encourage is thinking of the work that we do as in three different buckets. So essentially, if we think of everyone having certain professional skills and tasks that they have to accomplish, then essentially there's some of those tasks that fall into a bucket that we call automation. These are skills that AI can or will very soon be able to do better than or more easily than humans can do it. These are great skills for automation. And generally, this is the work that you're thinking to yourself, oh, I can't believe I have to do that one more time. I can't believe I have to fill out that form one more time or whatever it may be. Those are the things that we want AI to do. And so we encourage faculty to think about, working with students to think about, what are those professional skills that we can just say, you know what, let's let AI do those things. Let's let that be automated. Then there's a second bucket that we call augmentation. This is stuff that a human can do very well, but they can do it even better if they use certain AI skills or AI technologies. So what we would consider that is, augmenting their work with maybe access to certain types of data analysis or certain types of human analysis based on certain kinds of things. And we do much of this work already, right? In terms of using testing and things like that, that's designed to augment our work and help us better make sense and understand a case that we may be working with. Then there's that third bucket, which is these are professional skills or tasks that cannot be replicated with AI or AI cannot do well anytime soon. And these are really the skills that we want to think about. How do we make sure our students are not only skilled, but extra skilled at these things, because this is what their work will become largely as AI gains in its adoption across different industries. Highlighted certain areas in terms of where we see the exposure according to work that was done by Accenture. So this implies that based on skills gleaned from ONET, that, if somebody works in insurance, for example, about half of their work can be automated. And so those of you that work with insurance can certainly think about that, right? Maybe actually be helpful or hurtful in certain cases. So if we go to the next slide, uh, at Auburn, what we did for faculty readiness is we actually developed a course called Teaching with AI. And I'm going to go through the next few slides kind of quickly, but this information is available for you at any time. And so we designed a course that's fully online, available asynchronously, and people can go through it on their own pace, which basically helps folks understand AI, how to design their courses and assignments, and then also think about student partnerships and readiness in the disciplinary area diversity that exists. So if we go to the next slide, this course allows people to earn digital badges in these 5 different areas. If we go to the next slide, this course is actually used by not only like over 1,000 people at Auburn, but we've actually licensed it to other institutions to make it available as broadly as we can. So there's over now, I think the number is actually closer to 140 institutions that use this course. Over 15,000 folks from that work in higher ed around the world have utilized this course to better understand artificial intelligence. If we go to the next slide. And then if we think about student engagement and student readiness, what we, based on just different survey data, what we understand is that there are students largely who believe that they should be learning about AI in the courses that they're taking. But a lot of them, as they graduate and they go out into their employment, more than half of them are realizing that they're not as prepared as they feel that they should have been for how AI is being used already in their workforce. And then we also look at employer expectations. 2/3 of employers, and this is probably more now because just in the last year it's increased certainly. Employers are expecting their candidates coming in from a college degree or any kind of development, workforce development, to have an understanding of how AI is used in that profession. So, especially for those of you working in vocational rehabilitation, you want to think about, how are we making sure that the clients that you're working with are also having access to understanding how AI may be affecting the profession that they're going into potentially. How are they understanding those skills? But then at the same time, are more professions accessible to people because AI can automate some repetitive tasks that may have been challenging to do? I think this is my last slide, but if we go to the next slide, we can. So yep, this is Dr. Matt. Thank you. Happy to take questions at the end.
Great. Thank you. Awesome. Yes, so I teach the vocational evaluation course at Auburn University, and we created an assignment that's based on hypothetical consumer case studies. And the point of, I guess, one of the points of this assignment or goals of the assignment was to integrate vocational assessment data with consumer background information for identifying the most suitable occupations for that specific consumer. Um, and so what I provided to the students was one document that had background information on the consumer, hypothetical consumer. And that information might include details that are typically gleaned from the vocational interview or intake interviews. It doesn't include all information about the consumer, but it's about a page-long narrative. The other document that I provided to students for each of the hypothetical consumer case studies was just a single page, and I had tables that displayed raw scores, standard scores, percentiles, and things like that. No interpretive data or anything. So I wanted the students to be able to look at scores and just based on those scores, be able to interpret what it means, what the scores, the implications of them. Um, let's see. And so, yes, I think we can go to the next slide. So more specific details about this assignment um, is that on that one sheet of paper that I provided, scores for tests and subtests and inventories. Uh, there were tables for, the ONET interest profiler, the Myers-Briggs, the career ability placement survey, KBIT 2, the intelligence test, and the most recent edition of the wide range achievement test. Um, so before getting into the whole AI thing, I wanted the students to first, on their own, identify 3 occupations just solely based on the scores of each of these assessment instruments. So in total, students end up having 10 to 15 occupations that they would recommend just with the scores as in a vacuum, not considering any other details. Then I wanted the students to synthesize the background information, um, look at, look at that document with a narrative description of the individual, and in considering that along with the score data to come up with the 3 most optimal occupational recommendations in their opinion. So once they did that, then they engaged with at least 2 AI bots or tools. All the students were required to use 2 AI bots, but all of them were required to use the Chat GPT. Um, but whichever other AI bot, chat bot that they chose, that was up to them, completely up to them. Um, and so there are kind of some within the assignment, some reflection type prompts for the students. So compare and contrasting their occupational recommendations with those that were provided by the AI chatbots, and to kind of talk about the convergence and divergence of the opinions and the occupations that were derived. And then ultimately, the students were to give their opinion on the effectiveness of AI in identifying suitable occupations for their consumers. Uh, they were asked to, entertain the accuracy of AI chatbots, whether they're accurate or not, whether they gave bogus occupations or not. Um, and then and more of a sort of reflection of just their overall what was their experience with using the AI? What did they like? What did they dislike? What were some insights that they pulled from use of these AI tools? And we can go to the next slide. So what we found was there was significant overlap between what occupations the students by themselves recommended without using AI tools and with the occupations that were recommended by AI. So basically, when they were engaging with, say, ChatGPT, which by the way, you can type ChatGPT in Google online, go straight to their website, and it's ready to hear your prompts and answer any questions or do whatever else you want it to do. So, and one of the things it can do is you can upload documents to the chat bot and then ask it questions or give it prompts based on those documents that were uploaded. So once again, there's that background narrative of the consumer with information that's might be gleaned from a vocational interview, as well as once again just strictly a page that shows the scores from each of those assessment instruments in a table. So several students noted that that the AI chatbots. So let me go back to the significant overlap. When I say significant overlap between what the students recommended and what AI recommended, I mean close to identical for many of the students, which was fascinating to see. So pretty accurate, it would seem. Um, a huge, I think, finding from this little pilot study is that the AI chatbots provided also reasonable occupations that the students didn't think about. And with respect to that, that could be a game changer for clients or consumers. That one occupation that we may forget in practice as a vocational evaluator or might not consider, that could be the one occupation that provides the consumer with occupational success and vocational success. Most students found that, once again, that AI was helpful and that it was accurate. Interestingly, and I didn't have this as part of the assignment, but a couple of the students actually, instead of they started to have fun with it. They wanted to explore, and so they told me about, their experiences of what they had done. And a couple of students just uploaded the score-based document. And when compared to that document versus the one that included both documents with the background information, the occupations were completely different. So it's obviously showing that the AI tools are actually considering both documents, and it's the background information is mediating what occupational recommendations that are provided. Let's see. Kind of a surprising result was that several students, or if not, I would say maybe half, we haven't gotten really specific with the data quite yet, but several of the students noted that it was their first time experiencing AI. Um, and it was interesting because a lot of them, or a few of them, were like, this is life-changing. And I have some quotes on the next slide, but I'll stay here for now. Um, they see the AI tool as, I guess, if we're going back to those buckets that Asim was talking about, they would consider the use of AI as kind of a augmenting tool. Um, let's see. The chatbots considered scores and background information of the consumers to varying degrees, um, but it was also able to provide suggestions about other aspects of work. So even unprompted, some of the AI chatbots just automatically provided possible suggestions for assistive technology that would be beneficial to the consumer. Um, Basic recommendations of the sorts of tasks and things that might be most beneficial to them, potential barriers to these different occupations that it recommended. And when I did this kind of assignment on my own before I had the students do it, um, I found it to be quite accurate as well, the AI tools. And then I went on and I said in the prompts, I would ask, please not only just give me your occupational recommendations, but give me your justifications for producing these occupations. And it was very specific. It said it would the AI feedback would say, hey, um, we considered this aspect about Joseph, who's one of the hypothetical consumers from the background information. Then it sees then we also observed that his higher scores were on this subtest, so on and so forth. Um, in general, it seemed that students preferred ChatGPT over the other chatbots that was up for them to choose whichever other one they use. But it seems like ChatGPT was the winner among students. And we can go to the next slide. So here are some actual quotes from students that I'll just read aloud, that I just plucked from the assignments that kind of give the overall feel of what they were experiencing. So one student said, as someone relatively unfamiliar with AI, I found this experience truly eye-opening. Witnessing how these tools can analyze detailed information and generate tailored career options within mere seconds is nothing short of astonishing. It's incredible to see how technology and research continue to evolve and reshape our approach to problem solving. So again, that's goes back to a practical implication of just having a tool that helps us problem solve. That is, and when he says in mere seconds, it can be a time saver in certain scenarios that I'll let Dr. Meyer talk about at the end of this presentation. Another student said, I found the AI search to be helpful, but I don't see it as being able to take all the things into consideration that we as vocational rehabilitation counselors do. And that was a familiar sentiment among the students. So I do think if I were to, I guess, kind of, what's the right word? I'm sorry, guys, I'm blanking. If I were to, I guess, as to kind of the general feel of AI, it's like some of the students were kind of worried, it seemed, that AI would just take over their jobs. But no, they emphasized that, it could be a helpful tool. It can't do everything a voc rehab counselor can do, and it shouldn't. Um, Another student said, although I do believe any AI instrument is only as good as the person's prompts for feeding the information, I was pleasantly surprised with the feedback ChatGPT and Gemini gave me about Joseph, one of the hypothetical consumers. I saw similar occupations listed when I was putting information into ONET as well as new occupations such as a photographer, so I would concur with the results provided. Ultimately, though, it will be up to Joseph what his future career goals look like. Once again, looking at this thing as an augmentation, not a replacement. This last quote may be familiar to many of you here. And that is, what stood out most was how reliably ChatGPT and similar bots can synthesize research-based practices, making them incredibly valuable in rehab counseling. I use it almost daily in my work, though not on my state-provided computer since it's currently not permitted. I understand the restrictions given the sensitivity of data we handle, but at the same time, it seems counterintuitive to limit access to such a powerful tool. So even in that quote, you have the practical boundaries in which the state federal workers have to work around or um, present with are presented with, and also this quote brings up the whole ethical concerns. You don't want to put identifying information about a real consumer into OpenAI. Um, so with that said, I am very excited about Dr. Park's class coming in the future and the results that she may find. So I will pass it along to Dr. Park.
Thank you. So this summer, I'm teaching an occupational career and placement services course for our Rehab Counseling Masters and VEFC students. So this course is geared toward providing students with gaining some knowledge and skills related to the career development and job placement services and supports for people with disabilities. So one of the specific topic covered within this course is to conduct a labor market survey, and we kind of plan to develop a class activity in terms of utilizing AI in navigating the labor market information for potential consumers. So the main goals for this activity is to expose students to the AI chatbots and how to create the proper questions or prompts to get more accurate and reliable information related to consumers' vocational goals and particular job. And we hope that through that experiences, students can develop more critical thinking skills in terms of understanding some advantages and limitation in terms of using AI in VR practice and how, as a rehab counselors, they can properly use AI tool as a way to provide support and services to their consumers in addition to their own practical knowledge and skills they use. So definitely, like Dr. McClanahan mentioned, some ethical implication given some restrictions kind of implemented in current VR practice. Next slide, please. So during this class activity, we utilize case studies that are used across different VEFC courses. So among those 4 different case studies, like Shirley, Joseph, Henry, and Meiji, we kind of ask students to choose one imaginary consumer in terms of providing VR practice, and then kind of asking them to set up some specific vocational goals and relevant vocational service plan to help that consumer achieve their vocational goals. Then students will choose one specific AI tool, such as ChatGPT or Microsoft Copilot, and then develop at least 5 prompts they will use, or kind of specific questions they will use to generate more accurate or reliable answers from AI in terms of exploring the labor market information for that consumer. Then students will critique the response they get from the AI in terms of the quality and accuracy and relevance by comparing the AI's responses to the other existing resources, such as job search websites, ONET, and Occupational Outlook Handbook, and so on. Then students will share this information in class, particularly their reflection on these activities and some advantages and disadvantages or limitations and any other ethical implications or other practical implications in terms of using AI in their VR practice. Next slide, please. So some potential expected outcomes among the students related to this activity. So in addition to the kind of exposure to AI in vocational evaluation class with Dr. McClanahan, we kind of expect that these additional class activities may further enhance students' kind of familiarity with the AI tool, kind of as a support, kind of additional supporting resource they can use when they provide VR practice in their future. And some students are already in the field, so they may be actually using that tool. So we expect that it may help them understand and how the AI can complement the resource they already use when serving their consumers, rather than thinking or seeing this tool as a replacement for essential work the rehab counselors do in their kind of day-to-day practice. So I think that reflection has been already made by our students through that vocational evaluation course with Dr. McClanahan. And we further expect that students can kind of spend more time in thinking about some potential legal and ethical implication of use of AI in actual practice through this activity in this summer semester. Next slide. Now, Dr. Meyer will wrap up the session.
Great, thank you so much. We are, very pleased that we could incorporate AI into our classes and not only give our students the experiences, but give them the opportunity to see how they can use this in the future and use it with consumers and clients. And for our faculty as well, many of us, this is our first time using AI in our coursework. So we had the chatbot in the Canvas section, but we also had the students using the different tools to have the experience and the understanding of the potential with their consumers. And so some of our takeaways, we've just mentioned it, but it wasn't seen as a replacement for the professionals. I think we all very much, resonate with that. Our students saw that that was actually true as well. They did find that ChatGPT was their preferred tool, even though they used some of the others. And I think we hear this a lot with technology. It's kind of that outcomes are only as good as the input. So quality input provides quality output. And we definitely saw with some of the students in Dr. Matt's class where they realized that if they put more content in the case study and some background information along with the scores, they got much more accurate information and very similar to what they did themselves. So, but the only way to know that is to learn yourself. So it can't be a substitute for, especially for our students from learning. They have to be able to have enough knowledge so that when they see that output, they recognize that it's quality or not. And so I think that's going to be really important. And that's still a judgment issue. I know I've played with AI a lot just to see, is it going to give me the information I expect? And I mean, so far it's really been pretty accurate in terms of what I put in, looking at things in rehab counseling. So it's been very interesting. So definitely it's going to be able to automate tasks, maybe personalize some services, enhance training, but allow us to focus more time on meaningful client interactions and doing those services that can't be duplicated by AI. With future assignments, we hope that, this is going to foster our students' overall experiences, increase their familiarity with AI as a supportive tool alongside of, being a counselor. We also want to ensure that they are always thinking critically and ethically about the use. It definitely has great potential to be a tool in rehab counseling, not just, for professionals and the counselors, but also if we use it as educators, our students will use it. They're going to become counselors. They're going to be using it with their clients. The clients will become more familiar with it too. So we're really excited about the potential. Good. The students did, I think, like that the chatbots were available 24/7 in the classes. So that was, very helpful. I think earlier Dr. Asim Ali mentioned that 70% of the graduate students believe that generative AI should be in their courses. And I was surprised to see that it's that high. But there is a great expectation by the students in our programs currently that they're going to have some exposure and learn something about AI. It was interesting also to see that 62% of employers believe that their employees should have some ability to use AI coming into the workforce. So it's great for us to understand that, but we also have to understand that that means the clients we serve, they're going to be the employees. They're going to be expected to have some sort of knowledge with AI. And I do want to also mention that our counselor ed program at Auburn University has an AI policy. We adopted it last year. It's part of counselor education, so applies to all of the different counseling professions, our DOC program and the VEFC as well. And so it provides guidance on their limits for use and ethics and within the courses and program requirements. So that is part of the experience as well as to have that there for them for guidance. So that is the end of our presentation. I don't know if we have time for some questions or.
Yeah, it looks like we have about 12 minutes, depending on the presenter availability also. If anybody would like to put their questions in the chat, I can go ahead and share those with the presenters. And I'm also thinking too I see Victoria mentioned that she's found ChatGPT a useful tool in assisting with creating lists and outlines that can then be further explored. So any other professional uses too may be helpful to hear from others as well.
No. Dr. Ali, did you want to, I know I saw you put something in the chat. Do you want to say a little bit about that?
Yeah, I can share that. For those of you trying to, I still encourage, if you're teaching students, I encourage you to make using the different tools a part of the assignment. So just as easy to say, hey, instead of just using only ChatGPT, I want you to use ChatGPT and Claude and Gemini so that their AI literacy in terms of understanding the difference in the responses improves. But it's also worth noting that the quality of the responses from the paid versions can and likely will be different than the models that are available for free. So currently, for example, you can use Gemini 2.5 from Google. If you have a .edu address, you can use that for free until May of 2026. And that gives access to better results than if you just went to Google with a personal account and used the free Gemini version in terms of how many responses you can get and those kinds of things. Just worth, still worth noting that anytime something is free, it's because they want access to your data. So be mindful of what you do enter into those systems.
Dr. Ali, do you have any, or to our presenters, do you have any idea of resources that vocational counselors and educators can access to? I'm finding myself, even in my coursework, kind of struggling to keep up with which, Gemini, ChatGPT, like just all of the different models and where to find information about that, or is that work in progress?
That is so there's not a great resource because their models are changing so often. It's a very difficult it's difficult to create a timely resource that doesn't need like almost continuous updating. Like 2.5 Pro from Gemini just came out, and then GPT-5 will drop any day, in the next month, or they're probably timing it to, you know, whatever is happening in the national news and stuff as well. So there's all kinds of considerations, and that's why I can't point to any one resource that you can say, oh, here's how I use it. But what I suggest is that can be your prompt, right? Like you can say to Gemini or to Claude or to ChatGPT, Perplexity. Those are the four. There's only 4 or 5 main ones right now. Hey, which tool, what is your skill when it comes to vocational rehabilitation? How can you best help me? What are you not good at? And let's see what it tells you. I mean, that can be helpful. If you're thinking about how to incorporate it into your teaching, I highly recommend the resource that we've developed called the Teaching with AI resource. I just dropped a link in the course. You're welcome to take a look at that. If you have an institution that's interested in a license, we do like cost licensing essentially. So as long as we're able to cover our licensing costs for Canvas and things, we make that course available broadly.
Thank you. I see some other questions here too. There's a question about how is KCREP responding to AI integration in education?
Oh, yeah. I'm not on the KCREP board. I don't know if somebody present is. I do know that they just recently created an AI task force. Or maybe that was ACA. Actually, that was ACA that did that, now that I'm thinking about it. But so many people are on KCREP and ACA. So that might provide some directives. I am unaware of them actually having any sort of tight policy at this time. I don't know if they're working on it or not. A lot of times there isn't a lot of discussion about like what they're doing or what they're working on until they have something to show. So I think it's a great question. Like, how is KCREP going to view this? How is the CRC clinical rehab counseling certificate, CRCC, viewing that? It's one of the reasons why we created a policy in counselor education, is because we knew we needed some sort of parameters on what we could do and what we would allow the students to do and how we would be using it. I know somebody else asked about the coursework. So we don't allow our students like to use it in the skills class or the group counseling class, because that's when you have a lot of interaction and you don't want them using those tools to replace their skill development and learning how to connect with people and summarize and paraphrase and do actual counseling. What we think right now is best is that it works best in our specialty courses in rehab. And those are the very applied courses like occupational career and placement, voc eval, the forensic course, some of our theories course, but where you're actually seeing some application, career development, vocational type of assignments. So we really don't want it used where the counselor is developing their clinical counseling skills. So at least right now, that's what we're thinking.
There was one last question, unless anybody else has any more. There was one last question about how do you see CRC? Oop, my screen just moved. How do you see CRC and other credentialing boards responding to this incorporation in education and practice, and especially in light of ethical guidelines? So similar to some of the discussion we've had.
Right. Again, I think that they're going to have to kind of wrap their mind around this and get it. It probably should be incorporated into like ethical considerations and the limits, just like we've done at the university. We've certainly can see how it could be used to replace things students should be doing on their own and students should be learning. And so we've got that policy in place for that reason. But like any policy, it can and should evolve as the tools evolve within the profession. So I'm expecting them to kind of hop on and provide some guidance going forward. And I don't know, Dr. Ali, do you have any comments that you do, because you do this much more broadly than just rehab counseling?
Again, it's like, the information is changing so quickly. I do, with respect to specific credentialing, like there's a lot of different guidance. Just the spectrum is just so broad. I think what I get concerned about are, certainly when it comes to like, say, dissertation work and those kinds of things, because the rules are changing. I don't want to advise students to be able to use generative AI in certain ways, and then 20 or 30 or 40 years from now, all of a sudden we say that their dissertation is no good anymore because the standards of that time say that you weren't allowed to use generative AI to come up with research questions or whatever it may be. So I think what I really advise is, if you do decide to use generative AI in specific ways, to have some kind of a signed off document or something that says, hey, based on the information we have available right now, here's why we're making this decision of what's allowed and what's not allowed, just to make sure that people feel comfortable with it. But the flip side of that is that the professional conferences that you're going to, the kinds of conversations that are happening in those boards of those professional conferences, before some professional organizations should absolutely be talking about what are those best practices, where are we comfortable with drawing certain borders of what's allowed and what shouldn't be allowed. You are the experts. If you don't dictate that for your own profession, others will. And you will not like the answers that others come up with, because they'll come up with the answers based on whatever's good for either making money or good for, selling technology or whatever it may be. And so I think it's really a call to action for those professions to take an active role in that discussion to drive that conversation.
I do really appreciate those broader comments too. And just to follow up, we do have a piece of our policy is about doc students and using AI in their dissertation. And the graduate school at Auburn University does have a bullet point kind of policy. It's more guidance. And our doc students do have to provide disclosure in their dissertations on how they used and what they used it for if they use it. So we're doing the best we can to keep up and provide that guidance because I do completely agree that we can take charge and decide how we're going to use it and how our students are going to use it, or someone else will. So,
Well, any last questions? I see there was a question from Gracie, and it looks like it got answered by Dr. Ali in the chat, and I don't see any others. So maybe we'll pick this as a place to wrap up. And thank you so much to our presenters today. We really appreciate your time and all of this information on integrating AI into rehabilitation counseling. It's been really informative. Strikes me as a topic that is one that we need to continue to actively engage with because it's growing and very ongoing process. So thank you so much. Thank you also to all of our attendees. Make sure to check in the chat for the evaluation link to get your CE credits for attending. And then we'd also like to invite you to the next webinar, July 18th at 12 o'clock Eastern Time. It will be Introduction to Life Care Planning for Rehabilitation Counselors with Dr. Christine Reed. And then we also have a save the date for presentations in August and September. So August 15th, there will be a webinar on Medicare and the counseling profession, 10 things that you should know, as well as one on September 19th titled Wounded Troops and Partners Supporting Intimate Relationships. So on behalf of the American Rehabilitation Counseling Association, we thank you again today and hope you all have a really good weekend.